Well, good morning. Hey, Kyle. How's it going?
Good, good,
Good,
great.
good. Thanks for this opportunity. Yeah, my name is Mike Lydon, or Michael. I'm 70 years old this year. I've been in the priesthood for 40 years, ordained in 84. Um, Childhood was spent in a number of different cities, unlike a lot of people who were born and bred and stayed in St. Louis or the St. Louis area. I lived in St. Paul, Minnesota, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Kansas City, Kansas, Birmingham, Alabama, and St. Louis. By the time I was 16, we moved 4 times, lived in 5 different cities. I finished my last 2 years at De Smet Jesuit High School. But when I was in high school in Birmingham, there was some kind of a Jesus movement going across the country at the time. And a guy in biology class asked me one time, Mike, do you believe in Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior? I said, well, I think I do, Tommy. Yeah, I never quite put that way before. He invited me to a prayer meeting, which I didn't go to, but it was first time I realized that Tommy really thought Jesus was real. I didn't have that kind of relationship with him. And I kind of wanted that. So that was a hunger inside of me. Anyway, that kind of faded. And then I went to De Smet my last 2 years at Jesuit High School. It was on senior retreat, February of my senior year, where I went on this retreat. And something prompted me to go to confession, which I hadn't been to in a long time. And I met a priest there named Father Oppel, who was kind of a hardcore chemistry teacher, a real hard ass in the classroom. But in the confessional, he was great. He entertained my questions, and we talked about sin and about grace and about all kinds of things. And I really felt when I came out of that confession that my sins were forgiven. That was a powerful experience. So that was, and I've been thinking about priesthood since the second grade, really, off and on, here or there. And just, it was kind of always just in the background, but nothing real serious at this point regarding priesthood. That started getting more sharpened when I was 23. I had kind of a born again experience. Not kind of, it was a born again experience at the hands of a Pentecostal charismatic type minister that my sister kind of introduced me to. And we actually got rebaptized in a lake. And I came up out of that lake feeling like my sins were really forgiven. I felt refreshed and renewed, like Jesus was very real to me. I had a real hunger for scripture. But based on that, I went back to investigate my Catholic roots at Umsel, where I was going at the time, University of Missouri, St. Louis, eventually. And got drawn into the Newman Center there, a Catholic student center. Met the priest there, Father Bill Lyons, who was kind of like a second father to me, or a mentor, certainly. And from there, I went on to go into Kenrick then in the fall of 1980. And I was a so-called delayed vocation by 3 years because I didn't go by the usual high school, college, etc. route. But yeah, so I've been ordained 40 years, like I said. 21 of those years are at Bishop DeBerg High School as a teacher, a coach, administrator, and then finally as president for the last 6 years. Raised a lot of money, did a lot of works there, and then felt like I wanted to get back into pastoral ministry. Part of those 40 years was spent at Pius V Parish on South Grand, which was, I like to call Little Vietnam at the time. A lot of Vietnamese were there. Vietnamese refugees who came over here, and then went to Troy up in Lincoln County. And I was pastor up there for 4 years, and it was my first time exposure really to kind of a country setting. It was both suburban as well as rural, a lot of farmers, a lot of ranchers, some really wholesome people, and we saw homelessness up there. As we had seen in the city of St. Louis a lot. But it was up there that I helped to sit on a board called Bridge of Hope, Lincoln County, and we established a transitional housing center for those who were homeless. And it started operating in April of 24, a year after I'd moved, less than a year after I'd moved. So I'm really proud of that work. Trying to do something like that here in this pastorate. There's a lot of homelessness in Jeffco, in case you haven't noticed. And one of my first impressions when I got here at Jeffco and 2023 was a homeless person sleeping outside Crystal City, outside the Church of the Sacred Heart. And we brought him inside in one of the pews. And I'll never forget, Diana's mother, Francie Wagner, actually talked with this guy for several hours and got him kind of routed into some health areas. I think maybe we're at Mercy or somewhere. Anyway, so that's been kind of growing in me. And so while I've been here, I've really tried to work with the Coalition for the Unhoused, Jefferson County Coalition for the Unhoused, and trying to make some headway. The Archdiocese gave us a big grant of $585,000 and a piece of land over at Sacred Heart, the parish did, through Father Mike Bain. and we're going to be working on that site to maybe form another, not maybe, to form a 4,000 to 5,000 square foot transitional housing center, a group home. And just last night, in fact, the Festus Planning and Zoning gave us permission to use that site. We're going to knock down the current school and build this edifice there maybe in 2027. Chris Ockley's been very helpful with that too, as well as just a number of other people involved in the coalition. I'd like to think of part of my job in the pastor. I'm the Episcopal vicar formerly for this area. This is a new administrative structure the Archbishop put in. There's a Western Vicariate, a Southern Vicariate, and a Northern Vicariate. Here in the South, we have 2,800 square miles, 6 counties, 32 parishes, 16 grade schools, and 3 high schools. And my job is basically one of oversight and to try to bring resources of money, of people, of know-how, of expertise to areas that might not have those. So you may know that in the South, especially in Washington County, St. Francis County, somewhat in Genevieve County, even Perry County, there's a lot of farms and rural areas, but also a lot of spotty poverty down there. Washington County, in fact, is the poorest county in the Archdiocese of St. Louis, poorer than the city of St. Louis. So we've been spending a lot of time down there trying to resource them with different funding as well as people and encouragement to further develop their ministries, like Caring Hearts, which is the only pregnancy resource center in Washington County. And so part of my zest for ministry, if you will, part of my desire to preach well is to ignite a flame for the people who are in the more established parishes in St. Louis County, between Queen of All Saints and Sacred Heart and Valley Park and St. Joseph and Imperial, even south of the Merrimack, to have an eye and a heart towards the South, where there's poverty as well, and to try to alleviate some of the symptoms of that, including mental illness, addiction, and homelessness, which is kind of the trifecta that affects some people who have been broken by life. So I'm really excited about this mission. Father Zach, the new pastor, after Father Mike Boehm over at Sacred Heart, he's very excited about this work, as are a number of other people. Parenthetically, as kind of a way to kind of an appetizer, if you will, for this kind of work and working with these kind of folks who are broken by life, as I like to put it. We have the James 2 Project up in Arnold. We have 2 lunches, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11:30 to 12:30 at the Salvation Army in Arnold. And the James 2 Project is a small nonprofit that is nestled in the Salvation Army and prepares and serves those lunches and those folks. And some of our Catholic parishes, including people from Our Lady and Sacred Heart in Hillsborough, also Good Shepherd, have helped to staff that Thursday lunch. Recently started a Monday lunch here in Festus at the United Methodist Church, and a number of Our Lady's people also helped there, as well as parishioners from United Methodist Church. So that's kind of my goal here, is to preach the gospel well when I preside at Mass, but also to ignite a fire for people to do the corporal works of mercy and the spiritual works of mercy, especially to people that don't have many resources. I think the mission statement for the 3 parishes, which is done in unison with the leadership team, really stresses making disciples who know, love, and serve Christ. And so if the fire to serve those in need is one kind of fire that's, I think, evangelical at its core, the other fire is to ignite faith in Christ, to make him believable, to make him and his message, the gospel, applicable to your life. If everyone could focus on just inviting one person to faith somehow, to either prayer, maybe to Mass eventually. Some people aren't quite ready for that yet because they're still pretty undeveloped in their faith life. But if the job is to reach out to others who have no faith or who are searching, we better be prepared to do that. And here's a way that you can prepare for it. This is big in all the vicariates these days. I don't know if Father Boehm mentioned this or not, but can you tell your story in a 3-minute, 5-minute, and 10-minute version about why you believe in Christ, why you pray, why you go to church, why the Eucharist is so important to you? Can you condense that into a 3 or 5-minute or 10-minute, story that's compelling, that's appealing, that's attractive, and be able to do that spiel to anybody who asks you those questions, especially those who have been away from church for a while? It could be a friend, it could be a family member. But that's part of the evangelical task that we're in now. which is probably a new apostolic age. We're out of Christendom. We're moving into an apostolic age, which means we all have to be prepared to evangelize those around us by our story. Nobody can argue with your story, okay? They can argue with you about doctrine. They can argue about all kinds of stuff, but they can't say that your story is not your story. And so if we have a sense of coming to that in a way that can be done in 3, 5, and 10-minute versions, I think that's a way to start to get at attracting people to come to Christ and eventually to his church. And even to pray with people and for people, you know? To be a little bit more bold in our approach, I guess I'd say too, you know? Those are some things I think of.
Yeah.
But the other piece, Kyle, to begin to kind of inch away at that, if that feels too intimidating to you, and you're still very young, I'm an old man now, but it's like I've got a lot of stories I can pile up. Your stories are starting to accumulate, but your witness is very important for the young. To have a young leader in Ignite, for example, or to be going to Steubenville or to lead a retreat is very powerful. Even for older people, it's so refreshing to see younger people turning on to the faith. But I would say this, consider every day even as a way to pray. Where was your God moment today? Where did you encounter God? Where did you sense God's presence in this day, in your workaday world, in your way you interact? And even to share that with somebody else who might be of faith, to bolster their own faith, or to someone who maybe has been away for a while. It's another way to get at it, a God moment.
Yeah.
Just a way to begin to get at it.
What do we not know about Father Lydon? What's some hobbies?
Yeah, I worked on the towboats in the Mississippi River, the upper Mississippi, in the summers of 75 through 79. And I learned a whole lot out there. It's kind of a dangerous job. You know, you put tows together and you go through the lock and dam system in the upper Mississippi. But I met men out there who, pretty rough. I'll never forget this one guy said to me, "Boy, you ever been to jail before?" I said, "No, sir, I've never been to jail." He said, "You never been to jail." It was just this kind of opening of like, these guys are really pretty seasoned guys who've lived a kind of a rough life. Some of them couldn't read, weren't literate, but while they weren't educated, and I was educated because I was in college at the time, but they were intelligent about the river. They knew the river backwards and forwards. They loved the river. They loved river work. They knew how to put tows together. They were very mechanical. I'm tremendously unmechanical. So I couldn't do floors, for example, like you do. I admire people that can take a blueprint, a two-dimensional thing, and put it into 3D. That just fascinates me. So that was one of my more fascinating jobs, was with the towboat on the Mississippi River. And then I enjoy to this day golf and pickleball and walking. I walk a lot. Mark Benson and I, for example, walk a ton. We've had 3 very long conversations. By the way, Mark talks a lot, in case you didn't know. But so we've walked Kreitz Park several times, and you know, I like to get 15 to 20,000 steps a day, which is about 7.5 to 10 miles.
Wow.
On my better days.
Yeah, I've seen some pre-confessional walks.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Get them in while you can, man.
Yeah.
Use it or lose it, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, pickleball, golf. I'll have to note that.
And I like to cook. I cook very simply. So people ask us, "Do you have a cook?" We haven't had cooks in the priesthood for years. That's an old era that's been gone for 30 years. What I do is I like to stir fry vegetables, all kinds of vegetables. I like to throw some turkey sausage in there or throw in some other kind of meat. Mix that around, either put ragu in there and mix that up with maybe some wine and some sugar, mix that baby around, put it over noodles, or if not that, put a non-ragu thing over brown rice, slow-cooked brown rice, all in one meal. I love the idea of eating one meal with one meal. You know, it's like I'm not having this, this, and this, but it's all together. So that's how I feed myself.
There it is. There it is.
Well, I play guitar, but it's been a long time since I played. Father Steve plays a really good guitar. I hear him up in his room all the time. I don't practice enough. I had a motorcycle when I was a young man, very young, when I was 16. In Alabama, they allowed you to ride a motorcycle when you were 14 of a certain size, but they never enforced the law, so we all got bigger motorcycles than what they allowed. We had a paper route, which involved, really, you're in business. You bought Birmingham newspapers from the Birmingham News from wholesale from them. You sold it retail to like 150 customers, and you go around on your motorcycle every day and deliver papers. And that's the way we financed our motorcycles. Okay. But Father Steve's got this massive Harley now. You know, that would just intimidate me so much, but it's pretty big. Oh, yeah. Yeah. In general, I would say this: that when time is allowed for a good confession for people like on Acts retreats or at the Catholic Men's Conference or other kinds of retreats, I love hearing confessions. They almost are like little mini spiritual direction sessions. And just in general, I'd say as a theme, for me as a Catholic priest, those are that's holy ground. I almost feel like taking off my shoes because those are so important regarding the person coming to you who might be buried there, maybe been away for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. It's really a privileged moment for us priests. So that is one area that I try to take seriously and listen carefully when I'm in the confessional. I do like presiding and preaching at liturgy. And there's been high points and low points, I guess, with that, but it's just such an honor to be able to do that. And I like doing it. There's a little bit of it's kind of an in and out game in the sense that you're both performing in a sense, but you're also praying publicly with people and trying to lead them in prayer. And there's a fine balance between those two, between performing and really entering into the prayer with people. And music in liturgy helps a whole lot, especially if you have a gifted music leader who knows how to kind of read a congregation and a priest, and they can kind of, especially if you're in worship songs, find the right song at the right time kind of thing. I really appreciate, like here at Our Lady, we probably have the most developed choir of the 3 parishes. There's like 35 voices, I think, when they're full. And it just blows me away when there's 20 or more voices there. It's just such a beautiful sound to see that and to hear that. And then I think it doesn't limit other people. I think other people are encouraged to sing even now. Sometimes choirs can be overwhelming. My experience here is that it encourages people to sing. And they sing at the other congregations too, don't get me wrong, but with the choir's help, it's just a really powerful worship experience and prayer experience for me. Let's see, other moments of priesthood that have been powerful. Well, taking this job, I mean, this is totally out of the blue. I didn't expect it. This is all brand new. The Archbishop brought this from Baltimore and from Springfield, Massachusetts, where they had vicariates. And so when he asked the 3 of us, Father Brocklin, myself, and Father Jones, to be vicars, we didn't know what he was talking about. But it's been such a joy to create this job, really, to build a staff and to get to know people down here in the Southern Vicariate and to notice the differences and see how the missions developed, like I described to you before. That took time to develop that between those who have resources and those who don't. So it's, like we had a day here yesterday where we had people from the northern parishes come together to meet some of the agencies and parishes in the south. And it was just a great exchange of ideas, and hopefully we'll get some good traction on some of that. Yeah. So one of the questions I almost always ask somebody in confession when I hear them, and nobody in particular, because I'm not, that's against canon law, I'm not going to do that, but I'll ask them, what's your daily prayer life like? Sometimes they mumble, I really don't have one, but it's like, if you can have some kind of regularity in your prayer life, like you do when you eat, can you pray in the morning when you first get up, even something simple to start? Like just get down on your knees immediately and just say a rote prayer or say, hello, God, help me make this day yours. Anything to kind of frame the day, and then at the end of the day to pray again. So daily prayer is one prime example. And even as you get into that, to develop that into like a Lectio Divina, where you let the scriptures read you. So you read the scriptures slowly and prayerfully. You don't rush it. You let them kind of talk to your heart. And then you use that as part of your prayer. It's a really good way to pray. That's one of the ways we listen to God as Catholics, or any Christian for that matter. We listen to God by hearing the Bible. Conversation's a two-way thing. It's not just me talking all the time, it's me listening as well. And then I have a shout out for silence. These dadgum phones, as wonderful as they are, technology is everywhere, but there's such a beauty to having some kind of sense of silence in your life where the Lord can also speak to you in the silence of your heart. And that's what I'm trying to incorporate now at Mass as a priest, a minute or so of silence after the homily and also after communion, just to give some time to chill down. We're so rushed all the time. So silence, taking the time, daily prayer life, regular confession. I mean, for Catholic Christians, you encounter Christ very personally in the sacrament of confession. If you can make a monthly habit of that, or even every other month, certainly a seasonal time of that for Lent, Advent, you got to do that and just really examine your conscience, come to Him, be purified, become a clearer vessel for His action in your life. And then I would just say, finally, there's a number of other things I'd say too, but the final thing I'd say, in addition to daily prayer life, to regular confession. Give yourself time to come to Mass. Silence before Mass, ideally, but to have one, even just one good Christian friend or a small group where you can really share what's going on in your life of faith. Maybe you're struggling. Maybe you're having a really dry time and it's hard. Maybe you're really involved in some kind of habitual sin that you're having a hard time getting over. Or maybe there's something that's pulling you away from the faith. To be able to share that with somebody else honestly and to be accountable to them, that is the mark of coming to some maturity in the Christian walk. So that would be a very important thing, to have somebody you can talk to honestly. I've got several priest friends I can do that with and some other lay friends as well. It's really a gift.